order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Councilor Cody.
Present.
Councilor Kraft is excused tonight. Councilor Rochelle.
Here.
Councilor Lunt.
Here.
Councilor Mason.
Here.
Councilor Pomelo.
Here.
And Councilor Bowie is here. Okay. Just a brief overview, Council. We're going to vote on budgets tonight. That's our main objective of being here. We'll start with the school budget. We have a number of articles. I think there's like 13 or 14 articles that we need to go through. Actually, 17. 17 articles that we need to vote on. The school committee made recommendations last night in their final votes and have provided us that information. And Twyla will read the articles with the amounts for appropriation as part of the article so that council can simply make a motion to adopt that as written, as read, or if council wishes to do something different, they can do something different. So, and then after that, once we get through all that, then we'll go into the municipal budget. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, so with that, Twyla, would you please start with Order 81?
Order 2010-81, adopt the school budget, Article 1, student and staff support. To see if the town council will authorize $1,006,229 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for student and staff support, includes guidance, health, library improvements of institution, curriculum coordinator, technology system administrator, technology funds, and curriculum funds.
I would want to have a motion.
Yes?
I would make a motion that in Article 1 would approve, for the council to approve the $1,006,229.
I'll second that,
I
Mike.
have a motion from Councilor Rochelle and a second from Councilor Cody. Any discussion from council? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Okay, Mr. Bowie, Councilor Bowie,
Yay.
Councilor Mason,
Yes.
Councilor La Rochelle,
Yes.
Councilor Cody,
Yes.
Councilor Pomelo,
Yes.
Councilor Lunt,
Yes.
and the vote is 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Order 2010-82, adopt the school budget, Article 2, System Administration, to see if the council will authorize $388,831 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for system administration, school committee, and superintendent.
I'd make a motion that we accept Article 2 for the sum of $388,831.
I'll second that.
I have a motion for Councilor Rochelle, a second from Councilor Mason. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilor Lunt,
Yes.
Councilor Pomelo,
Yes.
Councilor Cody,
Yes.
Councilor La Rochelle,
Yes.
Councilor Mason,
Yes.
Councilor Bowie.
Yay.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 3, School Administration, to see if the council will authorize $725,379 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for school administration principals.
I'd make a motion that we accept Article 3 for the $725,379.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilor Rochelle and a second from Councilor Pomelo. Discussion from council? We'll do a roll call then.
Councilor La Rochelle,
Yes.
Councilor Mason,
Yes.
Councilor Bowie,
Yay.
Councilor Cody,
Yay.
Councilor Pomelo,
Yes.
Councilor Lunt.
Yes.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 4, Facilities Maintenance, to see if the council will authorize $1,521,533 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for facilities maintenance, operation, and maintenance.
Make a motion also that we accept Article 4 for $1,521,533.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilor Rochelle and a second from Councilor Lunt. Discussion from council. Roll call, please.
Councilor Cody,
Yay.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 5, Transportation and Buses, to see if the council will authorize $632,043 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for transportation and buses.
I'd make a motion that we accept Article 5 for the $632,043.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Counselor LaRochelle and a second from Counselor Cody. Discussion, council? Roll call, please.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yay.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Okay, next article, please.
Article 6, all other expenditures, school nutrition. To see if the council will authorize $319,967 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for all other expenditures, includes school nutrition.
Make a motion that we accept Article 6, $319,967.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Counselor Mason and a second from Counselor Pomelo. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Cody?
Yay.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Okay, next article, please.
Article 7, debt service and other commitments. To see if the council will authorize $1,113,268 for the Lisbon School Department to spend for debt service and other commitments.
Anybody want to jump? I'll make a motion that we accept Article 7 for $1,113,268.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Counselor LaRochelle and a second from Counselor Cody. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Okay, next article, please.
Article 8, regular instruction, elementary, secondary, gifted, and talented. To see if the council will authorize $5,865,580 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for regular instruction, includes elementary, secondary, gifted, and talented.
I'll make a motion to accept Article 8 in the amount of $5,865,580.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Counselor Pomelo and a second from Counselor Cody. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
And Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 9, Special Education, to see if the council will authorize $1,924,059 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for special education, includes special education.
Make a motion we accept Article 9 for $1,924,000, $59, sorry.
I'll second that.
A motion from Counselor Mason and a couple of seconds from Pomelo and Cody. Discussion? Oh, Lunt, sorry. Roll call, please.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 10, Other Instruction, which includes co-curricular, to see if the council will authorize $399,453 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for other instruction, includes co-curricular.
And make a motion that we accept Article 12 for the $399,453.
On Article 10.
That's not the right number, is it?
Article 10, right.
Second that.
We have a motion from Counselor LaRochelle for Article 10 and a second from Counselor Lunt. Any discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Order 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 11, public funding for K through 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act for $4,324,230, covering the appropriation of $12,540,475, and raising $4,324,230 as the town's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15688.
I make a motion. Article 11 for $4,324,230.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Counselor Cody and a second from Counselor LaRochelle. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Counselor Cody?
Yay.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 12, debt service, to see if the council will authorize $104,529 for the Lisbon School Department to raise and appropriate for the annual payments on debt service previously approved by the legislative body for non-state funded school construction projects, non-state funded portions of school construction projects, and minor capital projects, in addition to the funds appropriated as the local share of the council will authorize the Lisbon School Department's unit contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12.
Make that motion, Mike. Article 12 for $104,529.
I'll second it.
And a motion from Counselor Cody and a second from Counselor Mason. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yay.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Okay, next article, please.
Article 13, funds exceeding the state's essential programs and services allocation model, to see if the council will authorize $748,412 for the Lisbon School Department to raise and appropriate for, in additional local funds, recommended $748,412, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $465,410 as required to fund the budget recommended by the school committee. The school committee recommends $748,412 for additional local funds and gives the following reasons for exceeding the state's essential programs and services funding model by $465,410. The Lisbon School Department is above EPS by $465,410 because the EPS formula does not provide enough subsidy to cover co-curricular activities fully and does not provide any subsidy for nutrition.
Make a motion on that. What is the exact number we're looking for? Is it $748,412?
Correct.
Correct.
I make a motion that we accept that for Article 13.
Second that.
And a motion from Counselor LaRochelle and a second from Counselor Lunt. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Okay. Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yay.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Bowie?
Yay?
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 14 authorizes sums to expend for fiscal year 2010-11 from the town's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from K through 12. To see if the council will authorize $13,896,342 for the Lisbon School Committee to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2010, and ending June 30th, 2011, from the town's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools.
I'll make a motion that we pass Article 14 in the amount of $13,896,342.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Counselor Lunt and a second from Counselor Cody. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Bowe?
Yay.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 15, authorize appropriation of funds for adult education and raise funds as the local share. To see if the council will authorize $98,610 for the Lisbon School Department to appropriate $144,349 for adult education and raise $98,610 as the local share, with authorization to expend any additional incidental or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for the well-being of the adult education program.
I'll make that motion, Mike. Article 15.
$98,610.
Yep, for $98,610.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Counselor Cody and a second from Counselor Mason. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
And Counselor Bowe?
Yay.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 16, authorize appropriation of funds for adult education and raise funds as the local share. To see if the town council will authorize $159,287 for the Lisbon School Department to expend for adult education.
I'll make a motion, we accept Article 16 for $159,287.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Counselor Mason and a second from Counselor Pomelo. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Bowe?
Yay.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Next article, please.
Article 17, authorization to expend federal stabilization funds. In addition to amounts approved in the preceding articles, shall the council authorize $317,110 for the school committee to expend for federal stabilization funds and such other sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for school purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated.
I'll make a motion for Article 17 for $317,110 in federal stabilization funds if needed.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Counselor Cody and a second from Counselor La Rochelle. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Pomelo?
Yes.
Counselor Cody?
Yes.
Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Mason?
Yes.
Counselor Bowe?
Yay.
Vote 6-0, order passed.
Okay,
Can I ask a question on that?
you certainly may.
How are the voters actually going to see this when it comes to for the voting? Will they see every individual article, or will they actually see one sum on the bottom that they're voting for?
There's actually, no, they won't see every individual article. These articles will be posted around the area for them to see, but they're just voting to approve the budget or not.
Okay, and the dollar figure isn't actually in that?
There
It's
is no
basically just
dollar.
approve or not
Right.
approve, correct?
This is the cost summary that the school department provided for us, and this cost summary breaks it down to those categories we just discussed, and the total expenditure of the $13,896,342, so they can see what this will be. It'll be posted at each of the polling places for people to reference. The ballot itself says, do you approve the budget approved by the council tonight's meeting on May 25th? Yes or no?
Also, just to add a comment, I went to last night's school board meeting, and there was a lot of people in attendance. I didn't count, but someone, roughly, media mentioned 100 people or more. It felt that hot, but, and there was quite a few people that spoke, and one of the things I did take from the night is everybody that spoke, there wasn't one person got up and say we need to cut the budget more. Everybody was supporting, saying, why are we cutting as much? So hopefully everybody that does watch or has any concerns about the school, please go vote. And again, you're not going to see numbers. It's basically the idea of trying, the school board's worked really hard on this budget, and that's one of the reasons you've seen us actually vote it through. So it's not the best case scenario, but I think it's the best that we can work with. So hopefully
that.
people do get out and vote.
Yeah, and the ballots are available tomorrow.
Sorry. I have a statement from
Sure.
Councilor Crafts. He apologizes for not being here tonight, but a family matter came up and he just could not be here, but he would like me to read the statement. Fellow councilors, Lisbon School Committee, Mr. Eldridge, Mr. Green, and Lisbon citizens. As a Lisbon councilor and your legislative representative to Augusta, my vote is in support of the Lisbon school budget as presented. With a loss of $660,000 in revenue from Augusta and careful scrutinizing by all boards and committees involved, I feel we have put our best effort forward to make this budget work for our school administration, the citizens of Lisbon, and most importantly, our students. I would like to thank all that were involved in this difficult process. Sincerely, Dale Crafts.
Rudy?
Mr. Bowie. On behalf of the Lisbon School Committee, Mr. Green, and all of our employees and other staff members, I want to thank you very much for your support of the budget. This has been a very difficult year, as I'm sure you know, and we hope that there will be a time when the legislature commits itself to the 55% under LD1 that the people voted back in 2004, 2006. And that we will never again have to face the amount of cuts that we've had to face. But I do appreciate your supporting a small tax increase this year. We thank you very much.
Thank you for all your hard work.
I'd like to thank Mr. Green and the school board for the hard work in this budget. It was a very hard decision, and a lot of times, I'm sure it wasn't too pleasant. We've certainly heard from some of the youth in the town. But we still want to remember that these are real difficult times, and the taxpayers are not turning their backs to the school. As you can see in all these articles, it's tough for everybody. And I want to thank you again for your hard work and effort in this.
Okay, so next up, before we go into the municipal budget, we had previously gotten information from the advisory board on their support of the school budget, but I think they have some outstanding questions that they'd like to get some answers to prior to their giving us their formal opinion on the municipal budget. Is that correct?
Just wanted to give you a summary of what we did discuss and what we did decide. The other night, we had a quite lively meeting, and in consideration of $262,598 local additional amount from the school addition to our budget, and in consideration of $195,189 or thereabouts, to the local municipal area, we had quite a debate. The first thing that we did was discuss all the wage lines as a group because we were somewhat worried whether a 1.75% raise was something that should happen or not. So we did consider that first. We also considered all the other lines of the budget individually and voted on them, but we had 4 questions. And the first question came in, and I think these have already been posed to Mr. Eldridge, but I'll mention them here. Item 110, which was contingency. There's $10,000 in the contingency as the budget's proposed. 5, I think it's 5 and 5. One of them was 5 was match, grant match. The other part was 5 for we don't know what. And you and Mr. Eldridge, I believe, explained it as the grants match, but what's the other part?
The other part was just if we had an area that wasn't necessarily funded in the budget or didn't have a budget area we could take from, and we had an emergency or an area that we needed to have funding for, it's a kind of a backup.
Okay. Second question was 135, and I believe it's the 5405 line, which is under capital purchases for technology, and that said handheld, I think it said handheld equipment for data entry for assessing department, something like that. since the budget doesn't include the appraisal, I mean, the reappraisal this year, we were wondering what that line
That was
there.
taken out initially. So that is used for any updates on any equipment, most all computer equipment, whether it's laptops or equipment that we need. We have a guy on staff who actually can rebuild computers, so that's where all that comes from.
That 21,000 is still there, though, and
Yep. And when we left it there, the handhelds was a total of $500, so we just left it as it was.
okay. So the 21,000 is capital purchases, but
Capital purchases,
the 500 was, all it was the other, okay. Town buildings, the 50, I think it's a 5110 account, which was cleaning the building, was $20,000 in the 140 account.
yes, it was.
And that's for the individual that comes and cleans, it's not somebody's,
No, we have somebody on the payroll. We used to have a service when I was first here. We were not happy with that service. We put somebody on part-time and to clean this building as well as the MTM building.
okay. I think that's my 4. What we did the other night was that we voted in favor, after a lot of debate, particularly on the wages, in favor of all the lines of the account with those questions, contingent on those questions being satisfactorily answered. And what I can do is I'll ask the board members, we do have a quorum here, so I can ask them if they want to go ahead and support those 4 lines we had questions on.
Certainly, please do. Okay. Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate it. And I thank the advisory board for all the work they did this year. And I would say I think it went much better this year than in prior years, and I appreciate all of your input and support throughout the whole budget season. Don't we all? Okay, with that, council, it is time to go through the municipal budget. And we're going to go through each department and each individual line. Let me clarify, not each individual line, but the summed up lines for the personnel services, contractual services, kind of office supplies and capital, lease type stuff. So we'll need to make a motion on each one of those lines, then decide whether we're in favor of it or against it. So Twyla, I believe, has each line separated over in her book there that she will read us the values. They should match identical to the sheets, your colored sheets that you were given at the last meeting. And Steve also has it up on the screen. And we will have discussion if necessary and vote. So with that, let's start in.
Start with the elected officials.
Yep.
Okay, and the first line is the 5100 line, personnel services, $17,730.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the personnel services line for $17,730.
We, just for clarification, are we doing individual lines, or are we gonna actually do department as a whole? I thought
We're
you
gonna go,
mentioned,
no, we're gonna do each
line.
individual line.
Okay.
Like we've done in the past.
And then vote as a
And then
whole.
at the end, or based on the charter requirements, we have to vote on the total budget overall.
Okay,
After
fine.
we've been through each of those line items.
Make
So I have a
sure-
motion from Counselor Pomelo.
And I would second that.
I have a second from Counselor Larochelle. Any discussion? Okay,
Ready for a roll call vote?
Yep.
Okay, Counselor Bowie,
yay?
Counselor Mason,
I'm a bit confused.
Okay,
I thought we were going to discuss this budget further.
I also thought that too. I thought
Yes,
it
and
was
so
gonna
did
be
Lori.
next week.
You have your opportunity to discuss now, right? I mean, we talked, we had 2 prior workshops after the,
Not what I understood at
public
all,
hearings.
Mike, and it seems like 3 other counselors feel the same as I do.
I thought we mentioned that we're gonna do the school budget and then come back and revisit the town. We had more time
I
to work on that.
I don't feel that we're even close on this budget,
well,
not even
I
waving.
guess I'm really lost with council here, because the last 2 times we met as workshops, we tried to go through and have discussions, and got no recommendations, no discussion purposes on what we wanted to do for adjustments or make any adjustments during those workshops, right? And I believe when I left that last workshop, I said, okay, then we're ready to vote next Tuesday, and we'll vote next Tuesday, and if you have discussion items on those lines, we'll discuss them at that point, if you've got additional things. I believe that's,
No, it was, and again, maybe I was closer to you, but I did hear the same thing as far as the idea, because there really wasn't any, there was concerns, but there wasn't any major discussion on how to change it. I think tonight is still open for discussion, but if we see a line that is obvious that we can vote on and actually take that away and get it out of the mix of what we need to be concerned about, and I think would be open for discussion to any ones that wouldn't vote, right? And that's typically how we've done in the past. If a certain line comes up as a negative vote, we'll discuss it to the point where
or
we make.
you can
yeah,
discuss it before you vote.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
well, concerning the agenda, why isn't it on the agenda? Maybe I'm,
It is. It's
oh,
article.
so we did the school? That
I
was
did the
kind
school
of-
first.
I don't know, I don't feel ready to vote on this budget, not at all. I know there were no major recommendations made, but with 4 of us thinking that we were not voting on this tonight, that concerns me.
You didn't think we were voting on it tonight either, Lori?
I had some questions about that, so I went ahead last night and worked on some more of it in preparation for, so I have some points for discussion.
Well,
On some of again, on some of these, I think all the way through the budget, there weren't really a whole lot of discussion on. Could we go through and maybe have the chair go through in the areas that I could be concerned, we make a note and go back and discuss and vote on the ones that we all agree on, or is that?
I mean, if we've got concerns, I want to hear council's concerns. So I'm open to hear what everybody has for recommendations for this budget right now. We've been doing this since March, okay? And we've had a number of meetings, and we've gone through this in detail, right? And I've been, trying to give everybody the opportunity to speak about making adjustments. We've had a number of workshops, so if somebody has ideas of what they want to change tonight, let's discuss it.
First, did we ever get the expense report that we talked about for personnel services?
That was sent to everybody via email.
I did not get
I
it.
didn't get it.
in your box as well.
Yes, and it was also in your box.
I never received it by email, I just got it in my box tonight.
In there. Okay. In the packet, no chance to find it yet.
What one are they talking about, Gina?
I'm not sure. I just got what I got tonight, so I haven't had a chance to go through it.
One of my big concerns, Mike, is the undesignated funds. Every year that we come into this budget season, we say to each other that we just can't be doing this anymore. We can't be doing this anymore. And every year, the first thing we do is dump into our undesignated funds. If I was running a business and I had to dump into my undesignated funds every year to make my business work, I'd have a real big issue with that. In fact, I'd probably be looking to remove some people. And as a counselor, I can't sit here and say that dipping $350,000 out of our undesignated funds to make a budget work is a budget. I have a real big issue with that. I think there's things that could be done differently to make up that money without,
Well, let's
You know.
hear what those things are to make up that money.
well, I've made the concerns known, and I didn't even want to be listened to, so. One of them was, I don't think economic development is a time now to be spending that money. And I don't believe the voters in this town feel that way. I have spoken to a lot of people, and everybody I speak to feels that that's $70,000 that should be spent on other things. Another thing I feel that is in the police department right now, it's a hard time. Everybody's giving up a lot, and if I look at last year's budget and this year's budget, I don't see a whole lot of difference. I think that could be slimmed down a little bit. It's a large department, and times are really tough right now, and people have to tighten their belts. And I think that's one area we could look at. There was several opportunities to look into that Ms. Fisher brought up. We talked about it, and everybody just didn't want to listen to her, but I think they were all very real numbers that we should look at. And I don't know how the rest of the council feels about this, but that's issues that I have. Another thing, one other thing that comes to mind real quick is that taking money out of our undesignated funds and put $50,000 into the fire department for future use, I think is not what the taxpayers of this community would want us to do at this time.
Council have comments on any of that?
May I?
Yes?
And again, there's no question about the idea that we're trying to be as smart about the budget as we can. As Mike said, we've been going through it for quite some times, and I know all of us have had different recommendations. Even last night, sitting through the school meeting, and it's one of the things I really wanted to listen to, is the idea to see if there's people out there that really said, geez, we really need to cut more out of our school because we don't want taxes to go up, and I really didn't see that last night. And that probably would have made a difference tonight when I voted, but pretty much the majority of the people that knew what was happening definitely didn't want to see a loss in services at the school, even though there are going to be some. I was only able to attend one of the public hearings, and at that public hearing, I really didn't hear anybody in town that said that they wanted to reduce services somehow. The second one, I guess, really wasn't a whole lot different from what I got for information. So, we try to listen to people as much as we can. Unfortunately, undesignated funds is something that we've been, whether it's a right approach or not, it's something we've been doing for several years that I know of. And luckily, we've been dropping those numbers back. So we have been trying to wean ourselves off as far as undesignated funds. And if you look back in history, every year that we have supported the school, the fire department's capital program, if you try to compare that to undesignated funds, it's something we've been doing for several years. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But yet, we are not breaking trend this year of the money putting aside. I think if you don't dedicate it to that account, unfortunately, it probably never will be dedicated to that account. And 2 years ago, we actually heard from the people of Lisbon that they'd like to see us do more of that. And unfortunately, whether that meant taking money every year that's undesignated and putting in separate accounts for all the departments, pay as you go. But again, it's tough. Unfortunately, listening to the people, we didn't really get a whole lot different feedback. We didn't hear that they wanted to cut back the police or fire or not plow the streets but when it comes to economic development, I kind of really strongly disagree. I really think that you actually have to have somebody here to control that. And, I'm not talking about the Moxie days or anything like that. If you just have someone in town that actually is trying to bring in a business, you could have someone there to work with them. If you have someone in town that actually has a business that's struggling, you need someone there to work with them and try to get the funds to them. It isn't something you can take a year off and hope it's going to get better all by itself, because economic development is, to me, a full-time. It's either happening or it's not. So that's my comments.
I also think it's important for us to remember, right, that while none of us want a tax increase, right, we've just agreed with the school that we need to increase the taxes a little bit. They're $262,000 there is worth about 72 cents. The town, based on where we're at with the town budget, we're going to be between 75 cents and $1 for both the school and the town. So that means the town, worst case, is like 25 cents on the tax rate as a tax increase, which I don't think is a bad job by council. I think it's also important to remember that we've approved a number of bonds recently that the townspeople wanted, we all wanted, which has increased our debt service, right? Which I think, again, doesn't allow us to do anything. And I think the citizens of this community would want us to use some of our surplus money. I can remember from prior town meetings that a lot of them didn't want us to have any surplus money, right? Now, you have to have some to continue to operate and have, in case you have emergencies and stuff like that. But, you know, for us to try and minimize their tax impact by utilizing some of that, knowing they wanted to see some improved services by approving bonds, right? And that we have cut and stripped the majority of our departments and services down. We haven't replaced people this year, right, from attrition. We haven't done any of that. And we're only impacting the mill rate by roughly about 25 cents out of all of that. I mean, I don't think that's a bad story for council in these economic times. I really don't. So I'm not sure what else we're going to do here and how we're going to get through it. But I think it's important that we keep that in front of us. And while we all don't want increased taxes, we all did sit around the table at one time and say the most of a tax increase we could accept, we felt, although we didn't like it, would be 1 mil. And we're definitely within that range between the town and the school at this point in time, right? And it potentially, depending on how things go, you know, if the state gets lucky and gives us some money, or if other things transpire, you may have no increase, right? I mean, that's the hard piece to predict right now. We can do some analysis and come up with what that range is and where we think we're going to fall, but we could actually come in with no increase this year, right? Based on how some other things go. Those aren't substantial enough right now for us to count on those to go to the bank and say, there's no impact. So I would just like council to keep those thoughts in their mind when they're going through and reviewing this budget and all the hard work that you've already put into this, as well as all of the department heads and the town manager, just like the school committee. I mean, we have cut this down to bare bones, in my mind, and are being at least reasonable and fair to both the citizens and the employees.
One of my concerns, Mike, is we're going to have some increased land valuations, and I know we spoke about that last week, but I was hoping to review that a little bit more if Pat's getting any more solid information on that. I'm sure he's inputting data, and we've been told that as he inputs data, he will know more. Now, hang on.
Okay, I was going
And-
to just give you some information on
Yep,
that.
sure, that's fine. But also, too, I'm concerned about taking surplus monies. That concerns me. If we're going to have an increased revenue source with the land valuations, I think we need to work with that more than taking money from undesignated. And that concerns me. And my opinion about voting on this budget tonight, I don't feel I'm ready to vote on it. That's my opinion. I would like to be able to go home and look at that. It's my fault, I didn't get my budget till today. That's unusual, I normally get it ahead of time, but I was not able to get it, and I would really prefer to go home and study this budget and the other paperwork that we got along with it.
To give you a little insight on the, I mean, that's the piece that's not real substantial right now, as far as what's the impact of the tax rate is what this land value is going to do, right? The land value, I mean, you can run a number of different scenarios or analysis. You can project a 10% increase, you can project a 20% increase, right, in the land value, right? If you do those, and if the numbers are just right and everything based on the analysis, you won't, if you had a 10% increase, you're not going to increase the mill rate, you may even drop it, okay? So you may drop the mill rate. Now, it still doesn't mean that some people's taxes will go up and some people's taxes will go down, right? But the mill rate will go down to balance all of that, right? If it's 20%, it could be even a bigger drop, right? And then from the undesignated, you can adjust your undesignated by what you do with your overlay, right? When you calculate your overlay into your tax analysis, right, you can generate some additional surplus out of that you can feed back into your undesignated. But your undesignated is known money you can take right now to guarantee you that you're going to minimize the tax impact based on what we know today. But we're really not gonna know that solid number until all that data's in, right? And until we do the actual commitment sometime in August, right? That's when you're really gonna know the number, because it's all work in preparation now, and it's, you know, we can do some analysis based on what they've seen and what it's looking like. They can try and do some scenarios, which equate to those types of things, but, I mean, short of that, we can't give a rock-solid number.
And if the number comes up and we have to, do we go in and take even more out of undesignated? If it goes
Well, no, I
the
don't
direction
think,
we don't want it to
the
go?
one thing I don't think will happen is you're not gonna go any lower in your percentage evaluation that you are today. You're only gonna increase it. So that's gonna increase that value, so that then has a direct impact on what you end up being able to do for your mill rate and for what you can do for your overlay, to then build back your surplus.
You know, one thing, Mike, in the last year, we've had quite a few votes to the people of this community to spend money. We spent money on the Upland Road. We spent money on the trail system. We spent money on Route 9 project for water. The improvements to the school. People are not naive to the point to think that they can continue to spend and not have their taxes go up some.
Right. I mean, and we
And
notified them,
But-
in all of those notifications, we said this could have a potential impact on the
Right.
tax rate.
And I think that at this time, rather than dip in quite so hard, a little small increase more and work the other numbers, I think are more beneficial to the community than taking $350,000 out of the undesignated fund.
What is the latest that we can vote on this budget? If I remember correctly, we went into June last year when we voted on the
We did.
municipal budget.
We did.
So it's not like we have a time
You
period
don't
where
have
it's
to,
just,
you do not have to vote on this budget, municipal budget today.
okay,
I just felt, based on our past discussions, that nobody was coming up with any valued changes to the budget we had in front of us for two specific workshops, and I figured you were
A lot
ready.
of our numbers have been sketchy at best, coming to us, too. You know, we'll get you the figures on this, we'll get the figures on that, and I'm not pointing the
No.
fingers at anybody in particular, but we're waiting on information, and now we're presented with a budget, and I don't think we're ready for it. I think we should,
Well, I tend to disagree with that. I think we've worked very hard to give council all the information when they needed it, and provided them as quick as responses as we could, and provided them with the detailed budget information. I mean, department heads have been, you know, working into the wee hours of the evenings lots of times, trying to come through all this stuff and bring it forward a reasonable budget that they felt would work for the town. And
Yeah, Steve, I mean, I've been looking at the numbers pretty closely, and from the two public hearings we had, the numbers we have are not really drastically different.
No, they're not.
They are pretty much identical to
They're
the,
almost identical.
Yeah.
We firmed up the 1.75 wages, we firmed up the positions that we weren't gonna fill, so that changed those a little bit. The only concern that I've heard in the last two workshops was the professional development. And many of that dollars, we've only expended, I think if you look at your sheets, under 20,000. And much of that is contractual, so you can't change that. And even if you did, $20,000 isn't gonna have any kind of impact on this budget to lower the tax rate.
Right.
I mean, we have gone 2 years where we keep downsizing our staffing. We're losing 4 positions this year, along with 3 part-time positions, to get where we are today. If we have another bad year next year, you will be impacting services because there's no other place to go, except bodies. And we really, department heads worked extremely hard to get their budgets down. And like I've said all along, you started this budget season with just under $400,000 in increases that weren't generated by, the department heads. They were bonds, they were healthcare increases, they were water rate increases, things like that. And those, you have to live with those.
So I just,
Mr. Fellows?
Question seems to be more bottom line than it is budget. And I'm wondering if a workshop, short workshop on revenue might be in order to get everybody's questions and concerns answered about revenue before voting on the budget.
You had a question, Lori?
yeah, the questions that I had was pertaining to the valuation, because while I realize that we aren't going to have concrete numbers until August, and that's been said multiple times, we have heard 56%, 70%, 100% valuation. So if we kind of had an idea of where we were going with that figure, it might help us out a little bit. And while I recognize that, you know, even if we tweak some of the numbers for professional development and/or mileage, some of the things that we could affect a change on, even though it's under $20,000, I think that what we have heard consistently in the public hearings is that people would like to know why those numbers can't be changed. And when I looked down through the budget package, which I just got last Friday, I noticed that there are a lot of those budgets that haven't been spent year-to-date from last year's figures. And so my questions were specific to, do we have money that is going to be spent between now and June 30th that is, you know, taking up a lot of the monies that we've set aside?
For
In
professional
other words,
development?
Professional development, I mean, there's a number of things. It's professional development, there's mileage, there's other expenditure or other budgets down through on each one of the lines that monies aren't fully expended for. And if we've lived without it from 2009 to 2010, my recommendation where we did give wage increases, we looked to see what we could do for health insurance, was maybe to cut some of those lines and just say to the department heads, you know, we'd like for you to work within this budget. We did good faith effort with giving 1.75% increase. I still don't have the final figure for the health insurance, and I was kind of hoping to get that tonight, because I know that you were working on that over the last couple of
The
weeks.
unions have not gotten back to us, and it
As to
could
whether or
be-
not that's accepted,
Yeah. So
unfortunately.
you're going to have to go in with what we have currently from MMA. If the unions choose to change, which I think they'd be wise to, because they're going to save money and get a better plan, but they're very reluctant. They took a hit last year. They are a little bit gun shy. We will save $20,000, the town will, and that will help. But it's contract
So if you have
negotiation.
20 I mean, if that was to be successful and you have $20,000 less in health insurance, and we could look at tweaking $20,000 in professional development, mileage, other areas that aren't expended from 2009 to 2010, I mean, we're talking $40,000. And I realize that $40,000 may not make a significant difference, but it does when we're looking at taking that money out of the undesignated fund. Because we've talked about that at great length.
Yeah.
You know, how much the impact is to take that money out of there. We're going to be below what we need to have for auditing purposes.
Let me give you some scenarios that Pat and I have discussed in terms of what he and Mr. Van Tynen are finding. They are looking at he's given me scenarios of a 20% increase going from 56 to 76% of value. If you do that, you may not have to dip into your undesignated fund balance. I've got a chart that I work with to try to back in with those numbers based on what we're spending. Those numbers are somewhat locked in when I do this, county tax, what we have, what our TIF amounts are. We could use possibly $200,000 less, so we'd only be putting in, say, $150,000. That would set the tax rate at 22.75 roughly.
That's quite a difference.
That's quite a difference.
Certainly is.
But what people have to understand, we may be decreasing the tax rate, but the expenditures, that money has to come from somewhere. And it's going to come from those possibly who have been very undervalued. We've seen properties that were on the books for $1,500 that should be up around $40,000. I mean, that's a big difference. So that's where we're getting some of those. If you were to do a 10% increase, which would bring you up to 66%, That would still, based on what we have without, and dropping it to 300,000 versus 350, we might be looking at a dollar drop in the mill rate, 24.50. But no matter how we do it, the percentage is gonna go up. And that's the important thing to remember. So, I had a call today from a retired gentleman who wanted to know why his veterans exemption keeps going down every year. And I explained to him about the percent value and how we're trying to get that back up with a reval, and that exemption will go back up to where it should be. But the goal is to get us up to either 90 to 100% if we can. Mr. Van Tynen, who does this for a living, says he feels for what he's seen so far and the changes that they're putting in, we're going to see a tremendous jump. But I can't just guess at this point. We have a lot of work to still do. But based on even a 10% increase in our valuation, we could drop by $1 in the mill rate.
So, I guess what I would recommend, if council willing, that you now have your final budgets, right, and everything. We'll come back on June 8th. I'll give you an extra week.
That's election day.
Oh, okay, so June 9th. We'll come back on June 9th, on Wednesday. And be prepared to bring forward all of your requested changes that you would like to see, and that we can work through those in a workshop, right? And then based on the results of that, we'll finalize those adjustments, if any are made, and then we'll start voting on the budget the following week.
Now, next Tuesday is the first,
Yes,
generally the first meeting of the month, correct?
Right.
yes.
Okay. So why can't we do it next week?
I'm not sure. We have scheduled for June 1st a lot of water department discussion
Yep.
that we have committed to, and we're trying to get information on to help Mr. Upham out and the rest of the people on Route 9. And I feel that we're obligated to continue to hold that, and I don't feel we'll have enough time to do anything on that day.
Okay, because I mean, in a week's time, you can review a lot and understand a lot more, so, but if we have a full agenda, then we go to the next week, I guess.
So is that amenable to council?
It's acceptable by me.
Yep.
You have a comment, Dot?
Yes, I do. I was elected to the Budget Advisory Board, but with over 1,000 votes just in District 2. People know I'm conservative, and I'm sure that's why I got so many votes. People expected quite a bit of me, I think. I've been to each and every town council meeting, only a few school committee meetings, sorry about that. Just can't do everything, and I've been to every budget meeting that they've had. There have been a lot of cuts proposed, and they've all been poo-pooed away. No one wants to hear about any budget cuts. I'm the one that keeps mentioning professional development, about $33,000 a year in professional development. Now, I don't like to bring names up or anything, but one person gets $4,500 for professional development, plus $1,500 for meals and lodging. And that person's salary is about $90,000 a year. Some of that may be contractual, but the previous town manager seemed to manage on $1,000 for professional development. And maybe that person could pay for some of his professional development that he feels so necessary out of his own income. I mentioned mileage for the engineer. That was a considerable amount at a previous town council budget meeting. And then I broke that down to 10 miles a day, which does not seem excessive where he travels back and forth between the sewage treatment plant and the different buildings. I've got here assessing department mileage, $3,000. 3,000 miles at, unless it's $3,000, at 44 cents a mile is $6,818 per year, 27 miles a day for 250 days. Does he really travel around the town that much for 27 miles a day? Can that be reduced? You know, a little bit here, a little bit there adds up, as Laurie was saying. Nobody wants to hear it. I've got here mileage for police officers on town-owned vehicles. I don't have the amount here, and I'm wondering why the police officers are being paid mileage. I don't know if they gas up where the town, you know, or pays for, does the town have a certain filling station that they have a contract with for a less amount? I don't know. Well, anyway, that's beside the point. But all of the offices have town-owned vehicles, I think. So why are we paying them mileage? I don't have an explanation of that, and everything is always explained out. Communications, public safety, everything is always explained out, so sorry about that. I'd like to maybe have another budget meeting. I don't think results are gonna be any different. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll get together on the 8th from a budget discussion. 9th, I mean, sorry. On the 9th. Okay. The rest of our agenda is we have audience participation.
Good evening. Oops. I just wanted to let you all know a few items that we did last night at our meeting, as well as scheduled meetings with the last meeting with the architect. Our state application was mailed in today. It is about this thick, so that has been sent off, and we will all keep our fingers crossed that that is approved by the state in their next rounds. Visitation to facilities across the state will be this summer. The next item is
Just be quiet in the audience.
on June 2nd, there will be a meeting at the high school at 7 p.m. As I had mentioned, with the architects, it's kind of our last public hearing as to what the building could be, should we get the state funding, or how the phasing could work. And they have several plans for phasing of that if we had to do it locally over several years. So that will be, again, on June 2nd at 7 p.m. at the high school. The other thing to note is that we had approved a contract to begin work on hopefully June 9th, June 10th, to be back in the building by start of school. And that will include new windows, new entrance, drainage for the entrance, paving for the entrance, lighting for the entrance, the new windows and siding for the north side as well as the south side of that building.
Great.
And gym roof bids will be a separate project at that time.
Thank you very much.
Tracy, this is a question that's been asked to me on several occasions. Is the cutting of the school teachers and the cuts that we've had to make in the school system this year gonna affect accreditation as we know it right now?
That'll be up to NEASC. I think with the repairs and the improvements that we have made regarding their concerns, I feel we'll be fine, because we weren't ever cited for our programming. We were cited on the facility not enhancing our programming. So it is my understanding that, and my belief, that the programming will be maintained. It will just look different and will not be ideal. I don't believe, I mean, I could be wrong. NEASC is a very finicky group, but I do believe that also being able to improve our facility will, I don't know what will shake out of it, but I don't believe that it will be detrimental at this point.
Thank you.
Don?
I see that Mr. Eldridge was ready to present the town budget. I'm wondering if it would be helpful for him to do that tonight so that the people here can see what we see, what the town council sees, what the advisory board sees for a budget. Nobody else sees the line by line. We used to see it at town meeting with the various articles, but now we see one figure, that's it. And I'm just wondering, you know, it's 8 o'clock, we planned on being here till 9:30. No one likes to spend a lot of time here, and me no more than anyone else. But I just
Don, we're gonna go through that when we do our workshop. So everybody can come and watch at the workshop.
Everyone's here now. Why don't you take a vote? Ask the people if they want to see it.
I'm not gonna take a vote. Any other audience participation? John?
Good evening, John Weersbicky, Cotton Road in Lisbon. Driving down the road yesterday, I noticed a lot of students out in front of the high school. And to all of those students, I want to say, I'm really proud of you folks. Congratulations. You're taking the first step to try to make a difference in this town. You're showing interest, you want to do something, you want to be helpful. I think that's really good. That's the first step. I do have a question for all of you students though, and this is part of the second step. By you're showing your support there and you're trying to support the teachers, what you're trying to do, or what you're effectively doing, is asking everyone in the town to make a little bit more of a sacrifice. Give a little bit more in taxes. With a lot of people, that's kind of tough. But you're asking the town folks to do that. But for all of you students, what are you willing to do? Do you have a suggestion? What can you do to help us out? I mean, it's great to sit up, stand up, voice what you want to do, but you have to take the second step when you do that. You have to come up with a solution too, or a possible solution. Because if you just stand up and say something, you're not solving a whole lot other than bringing it to people's attention. I applaud you for doing it. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that they're showing that much of an interest. I'm asking you to take that second step. Congratulations, students. Excellent job.
Any other audience participation? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Karen Stevens. I'm a registered Lisbon voter, and I'm also a parent of a Lisbon High School junior at this time. I had 2 or 3 questions. The municipal budget, is there a hard copy online that they seem to have all these numbers? Is there something online that we can look at to see what?
Yep. Our budget is posted online.
And it goes department by department?
Yep.
Okay. My second question was, let me see if I can find it. Thank you. You had talked about a surplus in the budgets. 2 or 3 counselors talked about a surplus. Is there some place that tells us as voters or as residents what the surplus is and what departments it's in and what it's meant for?
The surplus isn't to any specific department. The surplus is the available funds that the town has built up over time. There was quite a large number of funds at one time until we built this building. Then we used that money to build this building. Today, I think we have pretty close to about 1.8 million, 1.2 now. Okay, 1.2 million in surplus.
Okay. And is there, when it says it's surplus, is there a designated, or that surplus, does it have to go specifically to the town? Can it be split up and put towards school?
The school typically has their own surplus based on the funds that they have left over at the end of each year that they put back. I believe they have dwindled theirs down to next to nothing now. Right, very little.
Can I explain?
Steve?
I'll explain. What you're talking about is what they call the undesignated fund balance. And what that is used for is there are times throughout the year when the town and the school don't have a lot of revenue coming in, and it's used to carry us through the leaner times until we collect taxes twice a year. When we have any extra money at the end of the year, all that extra funding, if there is any, rolls back into the undesignated fund balance. So you'll see at the end of June, June 30th, if you look at what we have at the end of the year and what we've spent, there's a dollar amount that will roll back into the undesignated fund balance. That's done every year. It's required by charter. The only things that we will carry forward are designated funds for very specific projects. Like last year, we carried forward $9,000 because we were in the middle of doing ordinance updates, and that was a contractual agreement. So that's where your undesignated fund balance comes from. And if we have money left over from our, what we call the overlay, that also rolls back in. This year, we're anticipating about $160,000. We did not have, we had a very mild winter, so we saved money there. And there's pockets of places where you'll see, it's not because we didn't need the funding, it's just because it just happened, though, it didn't get spent for whatever reason. So,
So the question again is, come June 30th, you said?
yes.
Is there a place that we as citizens can look to see what our surplus is?
Yeah.
Will there'll be either a piece of
There's
paper
an
or
annual
online?
report that comes out every year that will tell you what the undesignated fund balance is for the school and for the town through our audit. That usually is being prepared usually in July and August. They start doing that where they do all the balancing of accounts, and it's usually a pretty easy process for both of us.
The only, my last,
Just, I want to interrupt just to help her. By law, the school department is allowed to have an undesignated balance of up to 3% of our budget. In fact, the auditor recommends that we keep that for some sort of an emergency thing if the boiler goes. We do not have that 3% currently.
Yes, on the town side.
so it's 3% that has to be, okay.
Yeah, we have to maintain a balance just so we have enough funds to get through the year. And when we do calculate the tax rate, when we talk about adding undesignated fund balance to help bring it down, that's based on the whole amount that needs to be appropriated, both town and school bottom line.
So it's combined.
So it's combined. So the school gets their subsidy from the state, a good chunk of it. But when we do the tax rate, we add all our expenses, which includes county tax, any TIF payments, the total school dollars that are needed, along with the total municipal dollars that are needed. That gives us a total dollar amount. I can tell you, as it stands right now, it's around 9.9 million. And that is after we subtract what we have for revenue, which currently is about 2.6 million is the total revenue source.
My final question today. We vote on June 8th for the school budget.
Correct.
Is there some place on the ballot or on the voting for an increase? You have approved the
No.
budget as it stands.
Right.
Is there a place as a registered voter that we can write in that we would like to increase the school budget?
Yes, what you do is you vote against the budget,
Okay,
and then there's a second question to say, is it too high or is it too low?
so we can write in it's too low.
So you can check the box and say it's too low, and then if the majority of the voters voted against it and all said was too low, then that comes back to the council and to the school committee, and we'll go increase the budget, I guess, based on what, the only thing we can't do is say how much, right? You can't say, I'd like to increase it by $3 million, or I'd like to increase it by 200,000, right?
So if somebody were to vote to increase, it would go back to you as the town council to review, to
Correct.
make adjustments.
And then come back to the vote.
It goes to the school committee.
Right.
The town council can only vote on the bottom dollar. They can't go into each department. They have to take their recommendations from the school committee, and then it comes back before the council, before it goes back onto a ballot.
Mike, one thing that I would like to mention, though, is if it comes back that the school board, that you voters feel that the budget is too low, it may be a tax increase to raise it.
Correct.
So the voters have got to also realize that
There is
if
gonna
it's
be
too
an
low, that it means
Right.
they're going to have to ante up.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
My name's Rick Graham. I live on Webster Road. A couple of points. One point I was going to make was at the public hearings, no one was saying they wanted services cut. I was going to say that I haven't heard anyone say they wanted a tax increase, but I'm afraid the previous speaker may have just proved me wrong. I just got a couple of quick comments, I guess. The budget, I don't believe anybody would say it's a simple process or that it's been a simple process. Hopefully, I think the budget has been adjusted in a number of departments, some more than others. From what I can see of it, the PD, the transfer station, the library, all did really good jobs. I think they all come in at a decrease in the budget. I'm not saying there's not room for more, but I'm also saying that it's not a situation where it hasn't been some adjustment done and some cuts made. The bond issue, for years and years, I haven't been sure people actually understand what they're voting on. Bond issues cost taxpayers more money than whatever they're voting on doing, and it ties the hands of people that are setting budgets. Once it's voted on by the public, then a town council such as yourself have to deal with it. I don't know what we can do about that. Hopefully, public would get more up to speed on what they're voting for on bond issues. And on undesignated funds, I know this is drastically oversimplifying it, but if you go to a prepaid gas station and you go and fill your tank and you go give them $50 and it costs $35 to fill your tank, they don't designate the remainder as undesignated funds. So, in my opinion, and I know you're allowed, certain percentage and stuff, but undesignated funds, to me, is the taxpayer's been overcharged. And I know it's not that simple, but that's the way a blue-collar guy looks at it. So,
May I just add to that just for a moment? One of the things I realized, and when you mentioned the idea of the ability to borrow money in the town does with the school, and for every situation needs to borrow money. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but what I've been told, being an audit committee, that undesignated funds is basically your credit. It kind of gives you a particular rating when you go to the bond bank, if you're going to be able to get a bond and what type of rating you're going to get on it. So it's not just a pool of money there that hopefully you collect an interest in good years. It's actually what the bond bank looks to say, yes, we will lend you money over long term because you actually have some type of reserve that could pay for it if things go wrong. And I'm not sure, Steve, am I kind of saying that in the correct
Fairly
manner?
close.
You don't
Yeah.
need it, so we'll loan it to you.
Exactly. We're only going to give you as much as you don't need, right?
On the other hand, if you've got this money, all we have to do is have one police chase and one lawsuit, and it's all gone. We need insurance, and that also serves that purpose.
well, I know it wasn't as simple as I was stating it, but it just seems funny to me to say, well, we have money left over from last year, but we need a tax increase this year. That's all. So, just my opinion.
Understood. Yeah.
I'm Alex Campbell. I'm a junior at the high school. I just wanted to clarify something. Mrs. Stevens was talking about the votes and the yes and the no vote. And with the no vote, you can vote no, it's too high, no, it's too low. I was wondering, is that two separate? Would that be two separate things, or would it just say people vote no, it's too low, and then 1,000 people vote no, it's too high? Would that just count as a no vote and not pass the budget?
You're voting, your first question to vote on is, do you approve the budget or not? So you're either saying yes or no to that. So if you say no to that, you have disagreed with that budget, and if enough people say no, that budget does not get passed. Then the second one is kind of an advisory question, a non-binding question, but it's to give guidance back to the council and the school committee Well, if you didn't like the budget, how come, which way didn't you like it? Did you like it, not like it because it's too high? You think more money should be taken out? Or did you not like it because it's too low and you think more money should be put back into it?
So
Okay?
if,
So they're two separate questions that get voted on, right? And so you say, no, I don't want the budget, and then you tell us how you would like us to go look at it going forward.
okay, so if enough people voted no, it's too low, it would get taken back.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Good.
Hi, my name's Nicole Connor, and I'm also a junior at Lisbon High School. And the woman over there earlier said that she didn't think that this was going to affect our accreditation with all the cuts, but I really think it's going to, because the classrooms are going to go up to 25 to 30 kids in one room, and we're not going to have as many AP classes unless there's, I think, 18 signed up, and I'm one of those students that want to take my AP classes and get ready for college. And I want to apply to a competitive school, and I'm already in 2 different honor society, hoping to get in another one right now. And I fear that if I'm attending Lisbon High School with all these cuts and teachers leaving and really high supporters of the students, that I'm just going to be looked upon because of the high school I attend to. I can't afford to go to another school right now because I'll have to pay because I'm not a resident. And I want to save for college, obviously. Is there any way that with maybe the town's budget, how we do have the surplus there, or if we make little cuts, that could go to the school, or is it completely 2 separate things? Like,
They're two separate entities.
Right.
okay.
Roger.
One thing I'd like to mention, in order to fix the problem of the having to release the teachers, it would take a considerable amount of money. And $20,000 or $30,000 is not gonna cut it. And the amount of money that we got cut from the state level is what hurt the schools to the significance that it has. As a council, we didn't cut the school budget. The school budget was cut through the state funding. And as much as we'd like to remedy the problem and put the teachers back, we would have to increase the taxes on your parents' homes so much that your parents would be here instead of you. And we would have serious issues to deal with because people can't afford that kind of money.
I understand that. Is there any way that maybe we could do something to make the state change their mind, to maybe give us money back? Like,
We'll sign you up.
That's right, yeah.
Honestly, we'll sign you up. We're looking for all the support we can there.
Yeah.
It's
happening to
just,
schools all around the state, so I think
Yeah.
colleges will understand that, every other school is gonna have the same problem
Yeah.
we're having here, and, if you're going to Brunswick, they're gonna lose AP programs too, so, you'll be on the level playing field with kids everywhere, they're getting the same problems.
If every school went picketing, like, a dozen kids from every school in the state of Maine went to Augusta, it would actually put on a pretty interesting show. It would.
I'll make some phone calls.
there you go.
Thank you. Also, what was I just gonna say? Lost my train of thought. I was listening.
Sorry.
We'll be here.
Oh yeah, last night at the meeting, they were saying about virtual classes. How much would that cost compared to just having the regular teacher teach it? I don't understand how that would work. Like, would you take it at your house, the virtual class, or would you actually take it at school?
Mr. Green has left. He knows more about it.
Okay.
But it is much, 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 much cheaper. Not that it's better than a teacher, but it could be taken at home, and it could also be taken at school. It's brand new technology.
Can I comment on that? My son went to a college that he was allowed to do that, and he took many, many classes that way, and he was able to graduate a whole semester early because of that. It may apply a little bit differently to high school. I'm not sure how it does, but I know my son really liked it. He went and did some condensed classes also, and it was very helpful to him as far as, getting done sooner, so.
And I'll comment on that too. I've actually done some classes at different colleges where they actually do a virtual class. and taking them as a student. And what you find is, especially if you're a student that excels, sometimes when you do the virtual classes, you can actually do these classes with students from all over the United States that excel on the same level you do. So it's actually, it almost steps you up a notch in the sense of, not saying that the students around you are not at that level, but allows you to stay at your own school without going and paying more money for a private school, actually getting some of that education. So it's not a bad thing. It's definitely not a substitute for a real teacher, but I think you'll find that it's the future, unfortunately. I mean, it's gonna happen more and more.
Well, I like one-on-one. I like being able to have the teacher there if you need help.
There is a module, there is a way that you can contact the teacher.
Yeah, most of them are live time. I mean, you are actually the person that's doing the class. You are able to talk whenever. It's not just a video. I mean, it's as live as a person standing out front of you.
I guess I'm just worried. Yeah, there are a lot of rumors going around. But it's like we don't have any of the cold facts in front of us. We don't know anything. When will there be a paper sent out to students and families, like telling us how it's going to be next year? Like, I know there's classes going to be cut, like our foods, I know for sure, and herbs and like stuff like that, just because the teachers aren't going to be there anymore. But
Once Mr. Healy and Mr. Green get the schedule all worked out, the schedule, there's a grouping, sharing high school teachers with sub. Once that's all worked out and the classes are set, then you should know more. And we can make sure that letters are sent. That's something you would like to make sure that happens.
yes, please.
It's not gonna be tomorrow.
I know.
It'll take a while. That's right, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item, I guess, on our agenda.
Is Counselor
Counsel?
Communications.
Any council communications?
I have a couple of things.
Sure.
I won't ask the chief of police to be put on the spot tonight, but I'm just curious if we have any information about the 911 system and whether or not communications may be moving here or someplace else. And still no feedback.
The PUC has put out a letter to all the towns that they're going to be looking at consolidation of PSAP centers one more time, which could mean to us that what could happen is we would be forced to go possibly with Lewiston Auburn E911. That impacts, like all the studies have shown, that have gone on for the last 3 years, it's going to cost us tremendous amounts of money. So I'm trying to organize all the managers within the Androscoggin County area that are going to be impacted by this. And we need to find a solution. And Chief Brooks and I think we have the solution. And it needs to be done over a 5-year period, so the impact is not so great. So I've sent out emails to all of them. They've all responded except for several. I need to follow up on that again tomorrow, and hopefully start meetings to find out what we think we're going to do to stop this.
And I appreciate that answer. I realize that you don't have cold, hard facts, but as we look at the budget, we did break out the you guys broke out the communication line, and I know that you said if it goes elsewhere, it is going to cost us more money, so I would like to keep that in mind as we go forward. So any updates as you
Yeah.
have them would be greatly appreciated.
You'll have them, yep.
I would also like to take the opportunity to thank the school department and the school board for a job very well done on the budget this year. I know that it was really tough at times. I know the decisions that you've had to make are not easy. It's affecting everybody, as we hear from the students that are here. I also want to go back to the last meeting that we had in regards to the street light at the corner of King Road and Littlefield Road, and find out if that has actually been installed or if we have any additional information on where we're going with placing that light there.
It has been given to Mr. Layton to call CMP to get it installed, and that's as far as I know. It has not gone up yet, as far as I know.
I certainly didn't mean to sound hostile at the last meeting. However, I did vote against that because we were waiting for the streetlight ordinance to come out, and it felt like we didn't have all of the information at the time that we were asked to vote on that. So my vote would have been different a couple of months ago if we had all of that information. And I was also asked to mention by folks in the community that the sound was not working, and that's why we had the loud outroar at the beginning of the meeting while we were trying to adjust the sound. So I'm hoping that I'll get some feedback that it was positive.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else from council?
I'd like to thank Mr. Eldridge for working with me on my concerns about Upland Road and getting that reopened. And thanks, Steve. You did a good job there.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item.
Is to adjourn, order 2010-98.
I'd like to make that motion.
A motion
Second
from
that.
Councilor Cody and a second from Councilor Rochelle. All those in favor?
Vote 6-0.
Thank you all. We do have some things to sign, Council, before you leave, please. We have to sign the information for the,
Oh, that was the
we have to
municipal
sign
budget that you
anything
were